What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to this special live stream. I've brought on my brother from another mother, the favourite other Irish guy out there, the legend that is Michael Ramsey. How are you, sir?
Legend, you're being far too kind with that, Craig, but I'll take it anyway. Listen, glad to be back on the channel. Good to see you again. Wish it could be under better circumstances, though. Honestly, This is the death of football is upon us, and we just have to sit there and take it. We just have to sit and watch as the footballing stratosphere crumbles all around us. You're furious as well, yeah?
I'm absolutely heartbroken, to be honest with you. There's no coming back for me, for our owners, even if they back down from this and they walk away. I mean, I brought you on in particular, and I wanted to chat with you because, you know, you have first-hand experience of what it's like to deal with a shithouse owner. Having Mike Ashley there and for the last few years. And, you know, what I will say, Michael, is that it's been soul warming to see everybody come together on this. I mean, everybody condemning it, from fans of all the top big six, the managers pretty much as well. Nobody seems to want this. So, you know, it does come down to one thing, mate, doesn't it? That's pure greed.
100%. That's the only sort of solace I can take from the week, that you see, you know, rival broadcast companies coming together, doing the sacrilege thing of benching each other on air. Sky talking about BT talking about Sky, to come together. Football fans are united. What I see with this is, right, Leeds are playing Liverpool, obviously Liverpool Ellen Road yesterday. There were Leeds fans burning a Liverpool jersey. And now under most, was it Leeds fans? Leeds fans who were doing it, weren't they? Now under most, usually Liverpool fans would be aghast to that. You know, they'd look at that as an attack on their club. But with this, Liverpool fans are with that. I read just 10 minutes ago, I read Bill Shankly's grandson wants the statue taken down from outside the ground. Like, when they say, when the media outlets say that Liverpool, Man United, Man City, Tottenham, and Arsenal all want to break away into the Super League, no, they don't. They don't. It's the owners. It's six men, rich billionaires. They have nothing. Gary Neville said it best. They have nothing to do with the club. The fans don't want this, and that's who the clubs are. The club is made up of the fans, and without the fans, they will be nothing. So no, you're a Liverpool fan. You don't want this to happen. I don't know any other Liverpool fan who does. So no, Liverpool are not breaking away. Liverpool are being stolen away by John Henry and FSG. And you know what? I'm surprised, because I assumed you see John Henry with the Champions League trophy. He came in, sort of rescued you from the abyss when you had the Hicks and Gillette nonsense in 2010. I thought he was a level owner who was good for the club. But I think what this is showing is showing these people up for what they are. I mean, I think you were quite a supporter of FSG before, weren't you?
I was. I absolutely looked at them and I understood that they have a sports background, but they came in and they came into football cold and they made mistakes. But you kind of allow for these mistakes when you offset it against the new main stand or the training ground or the fact they've brought us Jurgen Klopp. But then today or yesterday and the day before, their silence speaks volumes here for me. I mean, I'll give you an example, Michael. There's supposed to be a staff town hall today. An email was circulated by our chief executive, Billy Hogan, at 8:30 yesterday morning. Now, the night after the news broke, the staff get an email, and then they were promised a town hall today where everything would be explained to them. That was cancelled. They're bottle jobs, mate. They haven't. At least the United's Glazers will look the fans in the eye when they're stabbing them in the back. Do you know what I mean? At least they'll stand there and go, well, look, we've always been about making money from this club. It feels like we've been absolutely shafted again here.
Yeah, you made a good point. Like, the Glazers they've made no bones about this. They've been the supervillains since day one. And you know what? I kind of feel like we were warned. Like when I was growing up in school, Manchester United fans with their Norwich scarf protests at Old Trafford, they told us the Glazers were bad. And you being a Liverpool fan, you probably just scoffed and like, all right, fair enough, good luck with that. You're still winning trophies under Fergie. Can't be that bad for you. But now, fast forward 15 years, and Joel Glazer is part of a plan to completely destroy what we know football to be. I mean, and I'm pretty sure I would imagine he's the face of this. I know he's going to be chairman with Stan Kroenke and John Henry, but I would imagine the Glazers, I mean, they're working with JP Morgan, the bank. They were the ones who bankrolled them into Old Trafford in the first place. So
4.6 billion apparently, Michael, they are standing by with to back this, and then DAZN, the streaming service, apparently have $3.5 billion ready to invest. But what gets me is, and this is what I can't understand, so you've got the 6 English clubs and how Spurs and Arsenal got their way in there. That's a whole other conversation. But you've got the 6 English clubs, and you look at who else is in the competition: Real Madrid, Barcelona, another Spanish team yet to be announced, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Juventus. Every single one of those clubs are on their knees financially. And this is their get out of jail free card for mismanaging their clubs. English football has never been in a stronger place financially. And that's what really devastates me about this. The fact that English football could have buried Real Madrid and Barcelona this summer, gone out there, got Haaland, got Mbappe, stolen the best talent, and left them in the pile of misery of debt. But no, apparently greed takes over and they want to bail these clowns out. It just stings, mate. It really does.
And so for you, will you be done with Liverpool? Like, if this happens, I know this is unprecedented and, no one really knows what they will do if this happens, but I can't fathom that the supporters of a football club from when they were children would abandon their club in a time of crisis. I know emotions are high this week, but would you? I mean, would you walk away from Liverpool? Is that how far this goes for you?
I find it hard to envision a situation where I will recognise Liverpool that take to a field in the Super League. I find it hard to sit back. I mean, the reason I support the club, the night that made me fall in love with the club was the 2-0 loss to Arsenal where they won the First Division title at Anfield many moons ago. And the reason that so true to me was I seen the Kop and the Liverpool fans standing and applauding the Arsenal players who just robbed the league title from under them in the last minute. But they applauded them off the pitch. And that's what the club meant to me, and it has meant to me over the years. It's everybody pulling together. So a Liverpool that takes the pitch in a Super League, I don't think I recognise that club. So if it does happen, I would be far more likely to walk away, and not I would be, honestly. I mean, football for me is about look, FIFA and UEFA bleed the game dry as well, but it is about the best of humanity. It is about something that anybody can get to no matter where you start from in life. It is about, you see the football food banks, people coming together, raising money, dropping off food parcels. I mean, Graham Hunter made an excellent point on this as well when he said, have they thought about, the people who risked their lives during this pandemic, the staff who are out the front doing their work, footballers week in and week out going and playing, having to go back to families, isolating themselves away. And these people sitting in their ivory towers who never come over are sitting there making these decisions without even consulting Jurgen Klopp, who's already made his point clear on it in 2019 when he said he doesn't want any part in it. And he's right. Yeah. Nobody wants to see Liverpool and United play Barca and Real every week because that's the glamour tie. That's what we aspire to. That's what English football is set up for. You want those big European nights. If it's diluted, it's not special.
Exactly. You want to be playing Real Madrid when it's earned. When you deserve it. You don't. I mean, as you say, like the novelty would wear very thin very quickly if you're just engorging yourself with glamour ties every week. It sort of all just fades away into it doesn't mean anything then. It's just you're playing Barcelona because it's written in the fixture list every single year. And you know what it would do? It would completely rob football of the underdog story. Where Liverpool turn up at Burnley and they don't know what's going to happen. The FA Cup, that'll just be thrown out the window. No more having the Waterlooville going 2-1 up at Anfield. None of those fairy tale stories. It's just a commercialized Americanization. And what the next step is? Of course, it's going to be to pull these clubs out of their cities, because that's what Stan Kroenke has already done. I'm pretty sure in football or baseball, whichever sport he's doing over there. American football or baseball. It's what these American owners do. They just pick up a club and they MK Don it. Just drag it 60 miles up the road and.
Sure, look at Raiders. The Raiders are now in Vegas. It happens all the time in American sports. As you said, they just pick up a club, keep the franchise model, and just drop it wherever. And I said this. I said they've already described Liverpool fans in our own club as legacy fans. So they've described the match going, the week in, week out, the people who buy the Sky subscriptions, the people who are on forums, the people who are probably watching now, legacy fans. Not the lifeblood of the sport, Michael. Legacy fans.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's because they've shown now they don't care about the working class scousers in the city, or even people like yourself coming from Ireland, or lifelong the blood of the club. They don't need that. They don't want that. They want your tourist Liverpool fan to pay big money to see Real Madrid in Tampa Bay or wherever, a neutral stadium, whatever the twisted circus freak show is going to be. yeah, they don't need the same, 40,000 people turning up at Stamford Bridge every fortnight. They don't need those people. They're perfectly happy now to cater to the, the ones. Because if you think about it, yeah, we the football community are outraged, but there's billions of people. There's billions of other people in the world who won't be. I don't want to lump them all together, and I won't. But you know what I mean. The fair weather fans in other countries that they'll see Arsenal play a preseason game in Japan, and they'll take to them. It's those people now they're catering to. It's because like you said, no real football fan is going to tune into this bollocks. Not they won't. So
no, you're right.
Yeah. So they're just going to cater to the fair weather fans, and then suddenly I think that becomes a much lesser product because one of the greatest moments of the last, off the top of my head, one of the greatest football moments of the last decade was the Leicester fans on the last day of the season when who's it? Andrea Bocelli was serenading them, and there were tears in their eyes because they've supported that club through thick and thin from the days of League One, and this new breed of fair weather fan who will tune into this abomination. It's just they'll have no connection to the club, and the club will have no connection to them. But again, that's the owners. They don't care. They just care about.
I guess this might bring us to a stage where we have to look at the greed in football anyway, because let's be honest, the Premier League has kind of moved itself away and already created this model that suits the clubs in the Premier League. And, they can talk about trickle-down economics and stuff and money, the parachute payments and stuff down. But, we have been living in an ivory tower to some extent. I mean, the clubs that are mainstays of the Premier League, we've been sitting up here and, it would have been easy for the fans of the top six to go, oh, yeah, this European Super League, playing Real Madrid every week, best players in the world. But that's not how we were raised. That's not how European sport is. That's not how football is. And we understand that as much of a level playing field as possible needs to be there. So I'm hoping, Michael, that this forms a conversation where everything gets restructured in somewhat more of a fair way rather than it going more in the opposite direction.
Well, I'll shoot a question at you now, because for all my life, I've only ever known the Premier League era, literally. So was there much of a difference between the old First Division and then the Sky monopolization of the Premier League? Is it, because to me it just looked like they changed the name, and that's all, because there's still a relegation and promotion system. So yeah, go on. What's the big difference between?
They invested a lot of money into it, I suppose, which allowed clubs to one, improve their infrastructure. If you look back at the stadiums, look back at Stamford Bridge back in the day, look back at the state of the pitches and look at the state of the players. There was Monday clubs doing the rounds where people were still out drinking and stuff like that. So it allowed almost the professionalization of the sport and allowed the likes of Arsene Wenger and foreign managers to come in and, show a different way. I think it brought money to the sport, it brought new viewers to the sport, and it gave the Premier League the best product. It's taken, I have to give credit to the Premier League in the way that they have sold the product around the world, marketed the product, and wrestled the power away from English and Spanish football. Because when I was growing up, Serie A was where it was at. That's where all the big players in the world were. We all tuned into Channel 4 to watch Richardson every Saturday doing his Italian football roundup. Gazza was over there. Liam Brady went over there. And they wrestled that power back, and we started to see an influx of a lot more foreign players into English football, which gave us some of these superstars, the Gianfranco Zolas, the Faustino Asprias, David Ginolas, all these fantastic players that you would have seen at Newcastle as well. And, it gave more money to the clubs, which have brought us to where we are. I mean, I was watching, the Sky Sports show the old games on Sky Sports. I was watching United playing, I think it was 99 or something. And I looked at the state of the pitch and 90% of it was mud. And I even look at that. Can you imagine that today? It wouldn't happen.
No, not at all. With pristine surfaces and mad. But was there opposition then? Can you remember, to the First Division? Morphing into the Premier League in '92. Can you remember? Was there much?
I would have been about 11. I don't remember too much furore about it, but it was a breakaway, and it was a bit of a money grab, I have to say. And I understand why fans of League One, League Two clubs will be looking now going, well, the chickens are coming home to roost, because, it's easy for us to sit here and say Bury shouldn't have happened. What happened at Portsmouth is wrong. What happened at Leeds United at the time was wrong. What's happened at Bolton is wrong. But it's like, I described it as like a war zone, mate. If it's not taking place on your doorstep, you kind of don't pay much attention to it. You have sympathy, you say all the right things, but you don't really take action. Well, now it's hitting home big time for the big boys, and
Yeah.
our fan bases are ashamed, and maybe we're reflecting a bit more on how easy we've had it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point you make. So Patrick Bamford kind of touched on a similar thing yesterday, when he basically said people only, big companies like UEFA and FIFA, they only chirp up when they're at risk of losing some money. Like a racist incident can happen in Italy somewhere. It's kind of old news by Monday morning, isn't it? There's no real action taken, and it's only now. Like it's funny when UEFA are trying to go for the trying to play the moral high ground sort of standpoint, because let's not forget we are 6 weeks out from Euro 2021 being hosted across 24 different nations during a global pandemic. Yeah, that's exactly what's fair for the fans. Chuck everyone in airports crawling with germs. The 1 year they could have. It was a nonsense idea in the first place. But change it now. Change it. Host the whole thing in England if you're going to host it. The Premier League's already proven they can handle it. So yeah, like don't let UEFA or FIFA fool you. They're just as corrupt as the rest of them. Christ above, we have a World Cup final taking place a week before Christmas on the desert in Qatar. People have died making stadiums over there. The whole football world is corrupt, and yeah, it's not just these 12 greedy owners. This has been bent for a while, and yeah, like you said, the chickens are coming up to roost now.
We would have thought that we'd be looking at Paris Saint-Germain as the bastions of morality in the last week with regard to the big boys. Like I could see with Bayern Munich, because one, they don't really have a choice. The fans run the club 51%, and the fans are even angry at Bayern Munich that the board even took a second to look into this, let alone said no to it. So, I'm surprised. And what really gets me is we've heard some talk that Manchester City and Chelsea are two clubs that are reconsidering their position. Well, Manchester City have wanted one thing since those owners came in, and that's to win the Champions League. And now they're in a semi-final against Paris Saint-Germain, having a great chance to get through to the final to play Real Madrid or Chelsea. And they could be expelled from the competition on Friday. I mean, it just doesn't add up, mate, does it? Like, their owners don't need the money. It's not about money for them. It's always been about pitching their country. It's been about financial doping to an extent, but it's a PR exercise. And to be fair, they've massively regenerated East Manchester, and they've put a lot of infrastructure in there, but they don't need the cash. This is about making money for them.
No, they don't. And I think it's probably a case of, we don't want to be left behind. We don't want to be the ones left out of this elite. It's kind of like being back in secondary school where there's this elitist popularity bubble. And you want to be the one getting invited to the house party. Like there's a few clubs in here that don't surprise me at all. I've already mentioned the Glazers. We've known from day one. It's more the likes of Man City and even Chelsea, because Roman Abramovich, over the years, I was skeptical, even as a child when he arrived in England. I thought he was there to make a quick buck and he'd be gone by 2006. He's stuck around. He's invested a lot of money. He's a winner. He wants to win. That's why he gets rid of so many managers. He is about football at the end. Yeah, he's a lot about money, but he's got a sporting, competitive nature to him too. Not like, the Glazers, who don't know the offside rule, or Stan Kroenke, who probably doesn't even know a single Arsenal player. So yeah, Abramovich, he surprises me. And like you said, the Man City owners, what they've done for the community is good. I think it was very easy to sort of, again, criticize them when they turned up in Manchester, just thinking they just wanted to be famous for a few years. But to be fair, they've done all the right moves. They've invested in a fantastic sports training ground. The stadium looks immaculate, and they're getting results on the pitch too. So yeah, this sort of, again, commercialized cash grab kind of, yeah, it took me a bit by surprise. But I think it also doesn't surprise me that if those are the two clubs that are willing to reconsider their position, it was probably a case of, like I said, just didn't want to be left behind. It's billionaire egos, they just want to be involved in whatever the cool kids are doing, I guess.
We've seen that Jordan Henderson is arranging a meeting of Premier League captains to talk this through, because like everybody else, they only found out when the news broke, which, what really gets me is any of these owners, if they gave a shit in any way, and I definitely include our owners in this, a little straw poll of any fans, ask a fan group, you'd have got your answer and what the backlash was going to be very, very quickly. And they did this in a cowardly way when there's no fans inside stadiums, when they think people can't get out and voice their opinions. And, I want to know what you would like to see happen to the big six clubs, because I tell you what, if we back down and go back to the Premier League, if we get docked points, it's fair enough. If we get dropped down the division, that's fair enough. I think our owners need that lesson. Now, it's completely unfair on the player, the manager, and the fans. The players, manager, and the fans. But, something needs to be done to draw a line in the sand here.
I don't know what you could do. Ideally, just remove. They are like a cancer. Remove them from the source. Get them out of the club, as far away from that club as possible. But yeah, it's like points deductions, relegations. That harms the fans. That harms the club, and the club is a victim of this. I stand by that point. The club is just as much a victim as anyone else. They're being controlled by a manipulative, self-serving billionaire. And I don't know how. The fit and owners proper test was supposed to do this job. That was supposed to, that's why. It's apparently why the Newcastle didn't get the takeover last year. But I don't know. I think relegations, and I've seen people want, chuck them down to the conference. Like, that's destroying an entire. That's almost destroying the club and millions of fans across the globe. The players, they've done nothing wrong. It's literally one person at each club. One person. I don't know. I literally, it's impossible. How do you remove billionaires? Money is the most powerful thing in the world. How do you get them out without hurting the club? I don't have the answers. Like, what would you want?
I think whatever comes our way is deserving. I have to say, as saddening as it is and as tough as it will be, it's happened to other clubs before. We've seen Manchester City get relegated. We've seen Leeds go down because of money issues. And, maybe fines are all these people understand. Maybe there will be a way that they can punish them. But I tell you what, I've been very impressed with how quickly some governments have come out here. Because, we don't want sport and politics to mix, but there are barriers that politicians can put up, whether it be visas for players, whether it be, a tax, whether it be, I don't know, whatever is at their disposal. But to hear Florentino Perez come out last night with a couple of weird-ass statements, one of them, no guarantee games to be 90 minutes, by the way, which, again, for someone who claims he's saving football and trying to look after the next generations. And also he was saying that they've decided now that we're all just going to pick up our Champions Leagues and bring them over. So Real Madrid will have 13 Super Leagues and Liverpool will have 6. Are you joking me, mate? That all big ears is the European Cup, and if don't try and disguise it and take it over just because you want your prestige carried into the next competition. It's not going to work. He's away with the fairies, Perez. He really is.
I missed that statement this morning. I didn't have time to look into it. He was basically saying what we're gonna leave the Champions League, but we're still gonna take the trophies with us. Like
we're going to carry on. Real Madrid will have 13, Liverpool will have 6, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Yeah, even though they won't be in the same competition. Yeah, that makes loads of sense.
I can see some jeweler or some trophy making company now getting their invoice ready for all these new European Cups that they have to make in a new shape. It's an absolute shambles, and I don't think they've got a leg to stand on here because taking away international football from some of these players. Now, whatever, I'm not a fan of international football. I mean, as you said, you lived through the Paul McShane era. I'm not a fan of it myself, but there are some players like Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, who are extremely proud, Virgil van Dijk, to play for their countries. They carry the hopes of a country on their back. I can't see these guys being happy with not being able to play in a World Cup.
You say that, and no, they won't be, but it comes down to money versus international football. We'll start to see just how patriotic some of these people are when they're being offered double the wages to play in this glamorous Super League. Like, you'd hope that the deterrent of no international football would be enough to, want these players to quit the clubs. But I mean, offer Harry Kane £450,000 a week, $500,000 a week in bonuses, whatever, or the opportunity to play at a World Cup. Like I've seen enough players rule with their wallet as opposed to any sport, any type of sporting merit. Christ above, look at the amount of players who've gone to the Chinese Super League. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, these deterrents are all nice, yeah, sure, but when this is the lot with the money, we've seen money talks the loudest. So
it says right at the bottom of the screen, Connor's putting in there now, Super League clubs have signed up to a potentially historic wage cap, which could force clubs to dramatically bring down salary to revenue levels by next season. They're committing to around 55%. So
hang on. So what? So they're doing the opposite of what you just said. They're going to have wage caps.
Yeah. Figure this out. Like, how are you going to attract these players and then put wage caps on? because you know that the wage caps will be worked around very quickly with image rights and other things and other loopholes. I mean, the more whoever's behind this just needs to stop talking at this point, because the more that they talk, the more it shows how badly organized the whole thing is.
Yeah. The hope I have that it won't go ahead is I just can't fathom that, something will go ahead when it has this many people in the world against it. Like, they pretty much the whole of Europe against them. I know there's the whole fairweather fans to cater to overseas, but like, can this really go ahead when there's media corporations going after them, when the governments are going after them, UEFA, FIFA, all the fans in Europe? Like, if they still are brazen enough to put this ahead, it's going to be the most hated competition in the world. It just will. So, do you think it's going to happen? Do you think this is still going to go ahead? I think there's too much opposition to it.
I do have a couple more things I want to say, but folks, while I have you here and while Michael's here as well, if you are enjoying the two Irish legends having a chat, because we are two Irish legends, mate. Let's not put it any other way. We're pretty good at what we do, I think. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video. We are heading towards 100k. Mr. 400k over here beside me. He doesn't understand the struggles of the poor man, the little man over there in his ivory tower. Look, Michael's a legend, you know that. But do hit that subscribe button, folks. Do drop a like on the video. But no, I can't see it happening, Michael. In answer to your question, mate, I can see it falling on its arse, because in a weekend that's supposed to be, last weekend gone was supposed to be Say No to Racism weekend, and we didn't hear one thing about it, not one thing, because it was overshadowed by greed yet again. It's an indictment, mate. And you know what really hurts me is, and I can only really speak from a Liverpool perspective, but our owners pitch the club to sponsors, the corporate partners, with the vision of the club, with the flags, the banners, the songs, the witticisms, the cleverness, the history, the tradition. And they pitch it like that. This means more. Cheesy phrases like that. And then they turn around and use the term legacy fans. And just basically, what annoys me most is how cowardly John W. Henry is. Like, mate, come out and speak. Do you know what I mean? Like, if this was me, you're sitting in Boston anyway, at least have the balls to come out and speak. All he's doing now is cowering, and I'm guessing getting a PR team together to try and find a way out of this. But there's no saving face anymore.
Has he always been a voiceless face? Like, I know he had that thing where Arsenal bid 40+1 for Suarez, and he came out saying, what were they smoking at the Emirates? But like, is he a vocal owner, or is he one of those who's a bit like Mike Ashley and just doesn't speak? He's
somebody who 5 years ago, this was floated around, a similar thing, a European Super League, breakaway league, and all of a sudden Liverpool fans very quickly jumped on it and said, no, we don't want any part of this. And they put out a press statement that said, okay, we made a mistake. And the end of it said, lesson learned. Here we are 5 years later. So it's obviously something that, as you've said, and I do want to pin it more on the three Americans. I do, on the Kroenke, the Glazers, and on John W. Henry, because the whole basis of this NBA model that they're pitching is based off no relegation, a closed shop. Well, that's not how European sport and European football works. American sports have their own way. It works brilliantly. Fair play to them. It's great entertainment. It's great to watch. And you've got a collegiate system in place. But football's different. There's no draft system. There is relegation. And anybody, you can have those beautiful Leicester stories. Or imagine West Ham pipping us and Chelsea to fourth place this season and not getting into a Champions League as we know it. That would be an absolute disgrace and a slap in the face to their fans.
Well, even now, still nothing is official, but there's just this cloud of uncertainty. Even now, the games feel a bit drab, pointless. I was watching Leeds Liverpool last night. Didn't really, because in the back of your head, you're thinking, does this really matter? Does it matter if Liverpool finish outside the top four? Are they still going to be playing all the big boys next season anyway? Like, and that's what, even if in a weird world, the two competitions did coexist, Premier League, and they remain in the Premier League somehow through some sort of a money agreement with the FA and the Premier League. It would just completely just rob the weekend of any sort of thrill, because that's the whole thing about getting into the top four. That's why it's so important for clubs like Liverpool to be in it every year. That's why even when your title race is shattered by January, you still have something to play for the last 6 months of the season. That's what makes it interesting. And if you're just going to be playing Barcelona, Real Madrid, Inter Milan anyway, no matter what happens, then games like last night, they just don't matter. They just, it's sad. Like, even now, I was really looking forward to the Champions League semi-finals, but just if they're playing each other all the time in the next 10 years anyway, what does it matter? What does it matter if they don't win the Champions League? Oh, it's just, yeah.
I think we all enjoyed the season where, well, obviously I enjoyed it because we won it, but we all enjoyed the season where Ajax and Spurs got themselves to a semi-final, and they had that mammoth semi-final. And, who would have thought that a young, inexperienced Ajax team would have gathered that momentum? And let's not forget, they're not included in the Super League, by the way. A historic club like Ajax, by the way, who produced some of the best footballers we've ever seen and have won the European Cup, aren't in this competition.
100%. It completely speaks for the owner's lack of knowledge about the history of the sport. The fact that Tottenham and Arsenal are in there. Arsenal were a once great club. They haven't won the league since 2004. Tottenham have won 2 papier-mâché League Cup trophies since the 90s. Since 1991, when they last won a proper trophy, the FA Cup with Gaza. So how they've squeaked in, because they have a big stadium. Like, I grew up when Tottenham were finishing 14th in the league in White Hart Lane with Gary Doherty at centre-back. Like, yeah, it doesn't even make sense then. It doesn't, like, it's literally just who is the biggest stadium, who is the most, the deepest pockets. I'm actually glad now that Newcastle didn't get the takeover last summer, because if we did, we'd have been chucked into this Big 6 or Big 7, purely because we'd have, the most money in the league.
What hurts me is when I see some opposition fans rightly pissed off. Don't get me wrong, but I would like to make a point that I wonder if the invitation was extended to some other owners of Premier League clubs, how they might have reacted. So, we're all disgusted at it, there is a bit of hypocrisy.
Newcastle have come out yesterday saying that they're strongly opposed to the concept of the Super League. Make no mistake about it. If Mike Ashley was asked, he'd have been there in a heartbeat. No, he'd have been signing a new, he'd be committing his future to the club for the next 10 years. Yes, sign me up for this pot of cash. Like, it's sad to say, but there are very few owners left in football, in top flight elite football with scruples and a sense of morality. I would say Leicester City are the only ones, really. They're the only ones who would say no. I think that they've done nothing but operate with class ever since they came in. Behind the fairy tale, never got carried away with themselves. Brilliant owners, and God rest his soul, Vichai. Everyone else in the top half, shall we say, maybe Leeds owner side, just jump at the money and run. And
that's just Simon Parrish last night on Monday Night Football when Cara put a good point to him. He said, you're condemning this, and rightly so, but when the EFL wanted the bailout, you said you don't see supermarkets bailing out corner shops. When the Premier League was asked to go and bail out, that's a quote attributed to the Crystal Palace chairman. So, there is two-faced hypocrisy from a lot of people in this as well. And the only people that ever suffer, Michael, are the fans.
Yeah. That they're the victims in all this. They're the ones who have to. That's why I don't like attacking these clubs. That's why I don't like wanting. I'm not advocating relegation or condemning them in that way, because those are the ones that suffer, and we just need to somehow just eradicate these people from seizing control of football clubs. Because what is a football club to someone like John Henry or Joel Glazer? Just something to make them look good, a shiny toy to show off at cocktail parties. It's I don't know where we go from here if this goes through, but I can only hope that it's not going to happen because of the levels of opposition to this, which as you said, which is actually kind of heartening to see everyone come together like this and just trying to
it's a clash of cultural differences. It's a massive clash of cultural differences. And again, we say the American model, and we don't mean to be disparaging in any way towards American people, because we all have different backgrounds, different beliefs, we grew up through sports differently. In America, the sports model is basically through school level, collegiate level, and then you go on, maybe you make it to the NBA or the NFL or whatever it is. And in England, you've got your local clubs, your county levels. In Ireland, of course, you've got your local clubs as well. And, you just hope you get spotted. You hope you get that trial at the club, and you go on from there. And whoever does make it, it's always minimal. It's always like a small fraction of those that lace up a pair of boots or throw an American football. And these guys have worked their whole careers to get to the pinnacle. We've all dreamt about playing in an FA Cup final or the World Cup. I mean, again, I don't know how old you are, mate, but Italia 90 changed their country. It absolutely transformed Ireland from a bunch of people who had no self-belief, felt like a third world country, into realizing that we can compete on the world stage, not just on a football pitch, but as people. And, introduced Irish fans to the world as well in a way that, we're going to drink you dry, but you won't get an ounce of trouble out of us. And, the best thing that's going to happen is we might serenade one of your women or something. Like, it unleashed us onto the world. And another thing that I've been thinking about here is, I'm very surprised that Celtic or Rangers haven't been approached either. Yeah, especially Celtic, if you look at the fan base that they can bring with them, a European Cup as well.
Yeah, but again, that would, I think you're overestimating the footballing knowledge of these people. They probably don't even know Celtic exist. Talked about in Scotland. Who cares about the Scottish Premier League? They think, so they're just a tin pot Europa League club. They've no business operating with us, the big boys, the big daddy dons. But despite, as you say, Celtic being an actually big and massive club with a rich history, the Lisbon Lions. These owners won't have a clue who the Lisbon Lions were. Yeah. It's. I mean, you could make a case for 20 other teams who should belong in a top 12 of Europe ahead of the likes of. I mean, it's funny. Like AC Milan are massive giants. They haven't done anything since 2011. I think was their last league title. Atletico Madrid haven't won a league in 7 years. Inter Milan, I know they're going to win Serie A this year. They've been nothing since Jose Mourinho left in 2010. And again, Spurs and Arsenal, we've already touched on, have no business belonging in a top 6 of English clubs. Christ above, they can't even finish in the top 6 in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's all commercialization. It's based on branding. It's who is the most, the biggest pots of cash, and no real basis for sporting or footballing history. None of that. No sporting merit. Nothing. It's just who has the most money? Get them in.
I watched that game last night, and actually I didn't put this up, but someone on TikTok put up a split screen of me celebrating our last league victory a week ago and me last night when Liverpool scored. And it's night and day, mate. You know me. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm somebody who's extremely passionate. We DM on you on. I moan at you a lot about my life and what's going on, and you listen and tell me to relax and be calm and it'll all come good and all that. And that's the type of person I am. But I was watching that game last night, and I honestly couldn't have given a shit what happened. I felt like I was in mourning. That's how I felt.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. It just all felt completely pointless. It just completely, this whole thing just completely robbed that game of any real meaning. Because as you say, like, who cares if Liverpool don't win the game? They're going to be playing Real Madrid and AC Milan next season anyway in this fabricated nonsense of a competition. It's So what? When Sadio Mane scored, you were just depressed in your seat, were you?
I was happy with the goal. I was happy with how he played, and I was proud of the guys because, again, as I said, it's not their fault. It's not Klopp's fault, but it all fell hollow. Like, what if we hit 100K now? We're going to hit 100K, which should be the time where myself and Connor get 3 years of our hard work and celebrate it. And it's going to be hollow as well. Just so many things that have been ruined for us football fans by the greed of a few. And
is there any way this could be? If this was to be swept under the carpet, they came out and apologized and put this to bed. Just move, live and learn, as the previous statement was. Has the damage been done? Is it a bit like finding out your girlfriend is just cheating on you? Like, will you still be hollow and just not really into it next season as well? Are you now going to have this disconnect with your club for forever?
No, I don't think so. I think if we were to come cap in hand and apologize, I'm done with the owners. I'll acknowledge their existence, but I certainly won't be buying any of their products. I won't be buying any stuff while they're at the club. I'll support the players and the manager, and I'll support the badge as always. And those people that take to the pitch, the people who know what it's about and understand it. But I will be counting the days until they pack up and sell, because they're, to me, and a lot of Liverpool fans that I've spoken to, and a lot of United fans as well, and Arsenal fans, this is a step too far. This has been the line in the sand that I haven't crossed yet. Because as you rightly said, I've been on the fence with our owners. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. The furloughing of staff was against their ethos. And this is just unacceptable. But what really riles me, as I said to you right at the start, mate, is the cowardly nature of hiding and not coming out and fronting up to this, or releasing a statement now 2 days later, still nothing. It's taken a captain to go and try and arrange a meeting with other captains. It's taken, our manager's been thrown under a bus, as was Solskjaer, by the way, when he went out. It's just an indictment of these people as characters, mate, and it speaks for what they're all about. And what is the fit and proper persons test, which you touched on earlier on, that has to be reevaluated now. It has to be, because nobody. Okay, we understand that people want to make a profit, and I would say that most Liverpool fans would look at the way our club has operated and gone, right, FSG have come in, they've talked about a sustainable model. We've built success by being clever in the transfer market, selling Coutinho, buying Alisson, Van Dijk. Our net spend hasn't been great, could be better, but we've had success. We've won a league, we've won a European Cup, a Super Cup, and a Club World Cup. We've got the best manager we could have asked for, and we were understanding of it. But now, mate, I don't see how they can win the fans back over. And of course, I can't speak for all fans, but I can certainly speak for our community of fans. And there's no way back for a lot of them from this one.
Well, then let me ask you, what does it look like next season when the fans are back in the stadium? Because I know they ran Hicks and Gillette out of town. Are there going to be protests, do you think, outside of Anfield every match?
It's difficult to say, isn't it? Well, so much is up in the air. I mean, we've already seen Spy and Cop come out and say they're taking the flags and banners off. Yeah.
Oh, wait, I say it again? They've taken the flags off.
The flags and banners off the Cop. Spy and Cop have come and said taken the crowd who look after all the banners. They tried to make these guys have to basically almost get licenses for their flags and banners last year. They tried to make it, even though that's what they're selling the club on around the world. This lovely, glorious image of the Cop weighing and moving and all its glory and the flags and then they tried to make it harder for them to do it. This stuff that they do out of love for the club and make no money from, and make these banners and flags at their own expense and their own time. It's shambolic.
Yeah. So basically, when they came in 2010 or whatever it was, do you think that was actually a nightmare appointment then? Seeing what we see now, if I gave you the opportunity to go back and rewrite the last 10 years, take a gamble on someone else, which means no Jurgen Klopp, no Premier League title, no Champions League, would you take that gamble to prevent this from happening eventually 10 years later?
It's really difficult to say, because I'm somebody that, and again, we've differed on this as Liverpool fans, but I'm somebody who always realised they bought the club very cheap. But credited them for adding value. I always used it to, like, say, I bought a house, I throw an extension on it, I cleaned it up, I do the back garden, I buy a plot of land behind the house, and I flip it at the end for a massive profit. They've never taken a penny out of the club. So they've given us basically an interest-free loan for the main stand. There has to be something like 2 or 3% on that loan to cover the cost of inflation. But they've been pretty good custodians up until this point. That's why I think we're all gobsmacked at this, because we'd seen the mistakes, and maybe we had red blinkers on. Maybe we were letting a little bit too much go, or maybe we'd made excuses because of the success. But I honestly don't know, because who's the next owner going to be? Football clubs are worth so much these days, or who would the owner have been? Like, there was talk of Dubai Investment Capital at one point, which was Amanda Stavely led, and that company they went bust. So what would have happened with them? And we've seen other owners, Malaga as an example, and Angie Maka, whatever the hell they're called over in Russia. We've seen their owners come in and become bored and just leave the club, assets, strip it, and run off. So my problem is, if FSG sell, and they sell with bad blood now, who the hell are they selling it to?
Yeah. Exactly,
because it's going to be an investment bank or something, because it's no Johnny Local done good who has a spare $2.5 billion lying around to buy a football club.
So do you think then the day? Well, I suppose it's not even a question. Yes, I'm answering my own question here. I was going to say, are the days of the local homegrown full supporting fan from the terraces come good? Is that over now? Is that, as you said, is it just banks now and just the 1% population of the world who can possibly afford clubs like this now?
It seems that way. Yeah, it seems like it's either investment funds, hedge funds, government-led equity. And that's where the sport has gone to, and that's where I think we're all culpable. That's where the Premier League are culpable. That's where the authorities and all English football are culpable. We let it get to this point because everybody was making money. Everyone somewhere along the line was making money. Clubs were doing better. They're improving infrastructure. And now it has to get to a point where maybe this is the tipping point. Maybe this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, that makes the authorities. And, it's a shame, because 10, 15 years ago, we might have been able to get the 50+1 rule, we might have been able to afford, like Liverpool at 260 million when they took it over, compared to now. It's not feasible now to try and implement a part where Liverpool fans buy 51% of the football club. You can crowdfund it as much as you want, but it's an astronomical amount of money.
Rio Ferdinand did his best trying to dupe the Newcastle fans last week, because he's living in Mike Ashley's pocket, obviously, selling his merch in his shops. So he basically came out and said, Newcastle fans, why don't you all club together and buy the club? And God help the Geordies, they're so downtrodden by 13 years of Ashley. They set up a GoFundMe trying to raise funds in a desperate attempts. And that shows you the levels of desperation football fans are getting to at this stage. That they'll try a futile effort like that to anything, because they're at their wits' end, basically.
I think, mate, the sad part about all of this is we're in a global pandemic. The political divide has never been greater. The Black Lives Matter movement and racism is at the forefront, and we're seeing what's going on in America. And this is yet another divide. And it's a divisive time where people need to come together in general, outside of football. And it just seems that every week and every month that goes by, this divide is being made bigger and bigger in every aspect of our lives. And it can't go on forever, or they'll end up in a revolution, mate, or they'll end up in... we need to come together as people and push our club allegiances aside and push our politics aside and push our own stereotypes or insecurities aside and just come together and look people in the eye and understand we all have a lot more in common than we do that divides us.
Yeah. 100%, and you're completely right. The timing of this couldn't be any worse. After a year of, football has saved a lot of people in the last year. It's given people an outlet. When there's not much else to do, football has always been the constant on TV for the most part of the lockdown. And I think this was a chance for almost to. I think the last year, it's almost strengthened the bond between the fan and the club, despite the fact they've been away from the stadium, because it almost shows right. Strip everything back, strip society back of everything, and this is what we have left. And football is your way out, basically. And to turn your back on the fans like this now and try and rob it away from them, it's like you said, the timing couldn't be worse. And yeah, I don't know what we can do together, but we have to try and do something. Club together. Don't let this slide. Do not let this slide. There's always a risk of something blowing up in the news and people are outraged on Twitter for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then it all dies down and people just start to accept norm and accept this as reality. That can't be the case with this. Everyone needs to be as outraged this week, in a month's time. Or 2 months' time, basically, until this idea is flatlines and goes away, people need to keep speaking up. Don't let this die down, and don't just accept that this is just going to happen. Because, yeah, we have to try.
I really believe people will, mate. I do. I believe that the good nature of people will come to the forefront here. I mean, I've experienced it on our channel. I've seen it on Sky. I mean, Sky have a vested interest, but I'll give Neville and Carragher credit. They're football men that are speaking up for the sport, and they weren't afraid to go against their own clubs on this and their owner. And so fair play to them. And I think we need more of that. And I think it will be kept at the forefront. And I think for once, it's in the interest of Skies and BTs and on all the news publications to keep this at the forefront. And I think football fan channels and people like yourselves who have somewhat of a platform need to keep talking about it and reaching across the lines as well, which is, I was so happy that you said, yeah, I'd love to jump on really quick, have a chat. And just keep it going. I've seen other fan channels step across as well, and we need more of this, mate. We need to let them know that no matter who we support, we want football to be saved for the greater good because it's our sport.
100%, and it's exactly what you said at the start. It is the only solace is the fact seeing everyone just come together and united for once over something. We've seen so much divisiveness on all about Twitter, but it's good to see everyone on the same page about something. And it kind of just shows you what the sport means to people. When there is such an emotional, response to this, it really taps in and kind of, demonstrates just exactly that. Like football is, it's basically my life. Like I loved it growing up, obsessed with it as a kid, obsessed with it as a teenager, and as an adult. Like this is what I do day in, day out now, and I love it. And yeah, I don't want it ripped away and turned into this bastardization of just. Yeah, NBA style nonsense that's not right for European football. And I know yourself, like obviously you do this. Football's obviously a massive burning passion for you too. Would I be right in saying it's it's a massive chunk of your life too?
It's everything outside of my family life. It's not just about, it's everything. I mean, I watch 15, 20 games a week. It's everything to me. I mean, I've been involved in this sport since I was 6. And I've always said, even when people are mocking me when I do my rants about Liverpool getting screwed by VAR or whatever, I've always said, it's not always been about my club. It's been about the bigger picture. And, whether it be a VAR incident or this, I'm somebody who has my club, but I love the sport. And I want to protect the sport. And I don't like seeing it bastardized, Americanized, and ruined in front of my eyes. And, while I can, I'm going to keep speaking up on the little platform that I have. And I've been very humbled at people coming in and showing support for each other and for the sport. And I genuinely, like that gentleman there just said, do you think anyone will actually boycott football, or is it going to blow over? I don't think people will boycott football, but I think they'll kill this idea off. I think that they'll kill this Super League nonsense off, and that this, I'm someone that likes to try and take a positive from it. And if there can be a positive, then maybe this is the start of the rebuilding of the sport, maybe the start of the restructuring of it in a more sustainable way, mate, that's more fair to economies as a whole, rather than areas as a whole. And it's a sad day. But look, before I let you go, I want to just say I've really been enjoying the football shorts and stuff, and I wanted to know what else you have coming up, mate, because I know you've got your own channel now as well.
Oh yes, yeah, I do. More skits coming. More skits. Like the last year, I've written about 10, 12 football origin stories. I've had time the last year, so now I'm just so ready to be back out and film with them. And the other Irish Guy channel. Tune in for all your Jake Paul KSI nonsense.
And there is a lot of nonsense, mate. There was a lot of nonsense to be going on there as well.
Ridiculous. But listen, it gave me a distraction this week. Something to look at that wasn't just doom and gloom. And which is ironic because football does that. Football was the one to alleviate the doom and gloom from COVID. So it's funny now we need something else to alleviate the doom and gloom from football. But listen, that's just what I find mad actually as well is, Jose Mourinho was sacked yesterday. You barely heard a peep about it. That shows how grandiose this whole crazy idea is, that the fact that was swept under the carpet.
And a week before a cup final that, as you said, they haven't had a trophy in a while. And if there's one thing Mourinho can do, it's one-off games. So I was a bit shocked by the timing of that one, to be honest.
I love Jose Mourinho. I think he's one of the greatest managers of all time. And yeah, like you said, for Spurs this week, right? They think they're one of the top 12 clubs in Europe, which is a joke. And number two, they think they deserve a higher caliber of manager than Jose Mourinho. Christ, that's why you've stuck 29-year-old Ryan Mason in the dugout, is it? Don't get me started on that whole story, lad.
I nearly fell off my chair yesterday when I seen somebody, I think it was on Sky, come out and say that they wanted Harry Redknapp and Robbie Keane to come in and see them through the end of the season. I just thought,
that's when you need to close the laptop and go outside. Jesus Christ.
Well, Michael, it is always a pleasure, dude. And look, I hope to catch up with you on happier terms the next time, mate. But I appreciate you taking time out of your day, jumping on for a chat. It's always nice to catch up with another Irish fella, and wish you well, as always.
Yeah, no worries, Craig. Anytime.
Thank you very much. And guys, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video. I'll be back live tonight at about 8:30, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more news. But look, Michael, a.k.a. the Irish Guy, always a pleasure. Keep doing what you're doing, mate. Keep making people smile, because we fucking need it right now, pal.
Yeah, you too, Craig. And congrats on 100K in advance.
Cheers, buddy.
Yes.